First of all, I'd like to thank Brock and, for allowing me to come here, and thank you for welcoming me here, and Dave J. Girolamo for promoting things that I do. I am here to challenge every one of you. What I want to do is give everyone here the remedy. I believe this is the only remedy to get America back on its foundation. Right now we got a lot of people seeking to get America on its lawful foundation. But they don't really know what happened, what went wrong. We don't know how to put it back into place. And what I want to present is, and also we've got a divided people. We have a people out there, like just what David was talking about, having security in your groups. We got people who have totally different belief systems. You know, one group gets blown apart because you probably had Christians in it and someone who was pro-gay marriage, the lesbian thing, and it just blows things apart. What I'm going to talk about here is not, and you have most people who want to get a consensus. They've got to get a large amount of people to believe in them. I'm not trying to do that. I'm looking for constitutionalists. Who here is a constitutionalist? And I am. Because if you're not a constitutionalist, this talk isn't for you. Because the group that isn't constitutionalist, they're out there right now. You can go warmly embrace them and participate and try to get your political action committees together and all that. But I'm a constitutionalist. I'm for restoration of what our founding fathers put into place and what was taken away from us. In order to properly ascertain, in order to have a solution, you have to properly ascertain what the problem is. What caused this problem? How did we get here? A lot of people blame progressives. People blame Social Security. People blame the incorporation of the district. People blame just a plethora of things. Just judicial activism. Okay, I'm here to say none of those are the problem. None of them. What I'm going to present to you is a political solution. And that's the one thing that's not talked about, but it's a political solution that comes from the people. Not a political solution of begging those people up there to recognize the Constitution as binding. No, we know who they are. Okay? We've got a society today where doing this for a 6-year-old gets them suspended. Chewing a Pop-Tart into the form of a gun gets them suspended. We've got a child bringing a Bible to school, reading it, suspended. You can't have that here. Get it out of here. It's a political issue. People used to say, how many of you heard this? You cannot legislate morality. Okay? Yep. Who were the people pushing that? The immoral people who wanted the people who were legislating morality to give up on it and say, you know what, you're right. All governments legislate morality. What is morally acceptable? What is morally unacceptable? Because the people who said don't legislate, you can't legislate morality are in charge now. And what are they doing with their position of power? Legislating morality to where Christianity has become the new immorality. That is not what they want. The founding principles of this country is the new immorality. The principles of family and God that made this country great is the new immorality. And what do we see that once the immoral people got in charge? Don't follow the law. Has America gotten greater? No, it hasn't. So the issue is, what do we do about this situation? Well, I took on a study years ago, and I decided I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to grab hold of the truth and throw away everything else. Our biggest problem is we believe way too many things. I'm going to give you a little life lesson I have. When I was in school, I went to the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. This is 1975, 76, right around there. I was in a philosophy class. And this is one of the first days of class. And the professor got up there, and they gave this little one-paragraph scenario, moral scenario. Do you agree with this? Of course, everybody raises their hand. Says another little paragraph, little moral concept. Who agrees with this? Everyone raises their hands. Then he does a third one. And he says, how many people agree with that? And everybody raises their hands. He said, the first one and the third one were were totally opposed to each other, and I got you to agree with two opposed views in less than 5 minutes. And that's where we are today. That's what the internet, we got a lot of people who believe all sorts of things, and now the Lord says people who believe every wind of doctrine. And we've got to quit believing every wind of doctrine, because what happens? What does the Lord say when you believe every wind of doctrine? You're unstable in all your ways. So what I want to do is present what happened to you, and then what we can do about it to get America back. Because getting America back on a lawful constitutional foundation, you're not going to get it from them. They have no intention of it. They will not do it. What's it going to take to get us back on a lawful foundation? Us doing it. But what we want to do, we want to do it for a lawful, moral, and just cause. Are immoral people going to be involved with us? Well, no. We're not looking for immoral people. We're going to do it in a lawful manner. Are people who want to go out there and just start shooting people because they're upset and they think everything's out of control? No, that's criminal action. That's taking the law into your own hands. That's not giving them the fair trial that we were talking about a little bit ago. I'm looking for people who want a lawful and a just answer, and the one that we can grab a hold of. And it's the one that we've been exercising for 16 years now. And it's the one, and we've got a track record, and I want to bring all that to you. Well, let's just talk a little bit about how we lost it, what we had, and it's a 100% political answer. Well, what is a political answer? It's not getting with the Republicans or the Tea Party. We've got to understand what a state is. What's a state? Well, let's just go to what the definitions say. State. Now, this is out of Bouvier's Law Dictionary, 1856. State. This word is used in various senses. In its most enlarged sense, it signifies a self-sufficient bodies of persons. That's called your body politic, so it's a body politic. It's a self-sufficient body of persons united together in one community for the defense of their rights and to do right and justice to foreigners. Okay, so people, and that's totally biblical. Because inside of Israel, they were supposed to do justice to foreigners, sojourners, people within their borders. In this sense, the state means the whole people united into one body politic, and the state and the people of the state are equivalent expressions. So when someone says the state of North Carolina, they really mean the people of North Carolina. And then they get a form of government called the Constitution. And that puts into place the government, of the state government, the people's government, the government for the people. And then the people are to send representatives people will elect representatives in their government. Okay? Status. The condition of persons. It also means estate because it signifies a condition or circumstances in which the owner stands with regard to his property. How many people are involved? The function of a state is to guarantee and protect people's property. And so your status is, depending on what your status is, who you say you are, depends on whether the government has to protect your property or not. Depends on where you fall in that system. Allegiance. This is the biggest thing there is out there. Allegiance. The tie which binds the citizen to the government in return for the protection which the government affords him. Allegiance. In any war, like you can think of the American Civil War, what's the first thing you want to do when you capture the enemy? Get an oath of allegiance from them. I want you to, if we're trying to conquer you, I want you to have your allegiance to me. When Germany went into France, they wanted the French people to give an allegiance to them. Okay? So who you give your allegiance to, which state, and I'm not talking about a government, I'm talking about a body politic, a political body of a certain group of people, is going to dictate what your status is and what your rights are. State as a noun, people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common habits. How many people feel that the United States of America has a common body politic now? How many have heard the concept of we get our strength through diversity? Have you heard that?
Yes.
How many have heard the maxim of law that if you want to conquer a people, you divide and conquer. Put as many divisions in there as possible. So the people cannot come together. Because that was the strength during the American Revolution. The people, we knew our neighbors. We had a common belief system. American Civil War, the same thing. World War I, World War II, a common people coming together. Now, how well do you feel you know your neighbor? Done. Not there. We're not a common people. So now we're doing what we have to do here. Get little groups of people. You got to go looking for someone. Do you believe what I believe? Well, we got to get a little group together. And like was said earlier, you know, that has created 100,000 potential Ruby Ridges. Well, that's based on the concept of us all being individuals, not a self-sufficient body of persons united together with an allegiance. Let's start having an allegiance to each other. But we want the allegiance to be to a lawful body politic. Okay, so a state is the people, a body politic. And you're going to hear me using that term, body politic. Okay? Now, was this nation created to be a, well, let's just go here. I'm going to the Federalist Papers. This is a quick Federalist, 39, James Madison. Each state in ratifying this Constitution is a sovereign body. That's the body politic. It's a specific body politic. The people of North Carolina were not the people of New York. They're two different body politics. Okay? A sovereign body, independent of all others and only to be bound by its own voluntary act. In this relation, then, the new Constitution will, if established, be a federal and not a national Constitution. Today, are the terms federal and national used synonymously? Yes. They're not the same. We had a federation, a federal union, with certain national aspects. And what were the national aspects? The enumerated powers. Certain enumerated powers. The limited federal government. How many people want to get back to a limited federal government? Okay? I'm going to give you the solution for that. How do you get back to a limited, how do we get back to the Constitution being a federal one for states versus a national one? And what does that mean? Well, Madison expressed that in the same Federalist paper. He was talking about it because the issue was we've got this Constitution that's a total experiment. And it's this union of states, but we're not getting a national government. You know, we don't want a king, but we got to have national aspects, like a common money. We got to wage war together. These are national aspects. We wage war as a body. This is that body again. We have treaties. We don't want South Carolina to have a treaty with France, and New York have a different treaty with France as a nation. So we have certain national aspects. Article 1, Section 8 gives us our national aspects. But what's the 10th Amendment say? 9th and 10th Amendment. We reserve other rights, and we've got our state rights. How many people believe we've got state rights in the United States of America? They are gone. Gone. And I'm going to prove it to you. But Madison says this. Now, we have a limited federal government, but what do governments always want to do? Get more power. Get more power. I want to have more control. Okay? What's the one way the federal government could get more control and actually get rid of the Constitution? Madison addresses it right here, Federalist 39. And he's talking about this difference between national government and a federal government. What are we creating here? He says the idea of a national government involves in it not only an authority over the individual citizens, but an indefinite supremacy over all persons and things, so far as they are objects of lawful government. Among a people consolidated into one nation, this supremacy is completely vested in the national legislature, the Congress. In this relation, then, the proposed government cannot be deemed a national one, since its jurisdiction extends to certain enumerated objects only, and leaves to the several states a residuary and inviolable sovereignty over all other objects. So if they could nationalize citizenship, how much power would Congress have? They would have an indefinite supremacy over all persons and things. Is that what we feel is going on in the United States today? Do you feel that, you know, Congress acting like they've got total control over us? They're supposed to have total control over an area not to exceed 10 miles square. But, you know, we got this government shutdown. How many government employees, what's the number they keep quoting? 2 million. 800,000 of them were put on furlough. To operate a 10-mile square? No. We've been nationalized. And how are we nationalized, and how do we get it back? How do we get back our lawful rights? Now let me just say this is, I want to go back a little bit to body politics and what is a body politic. In the United States, 1776, in North Carolina, how many body politics were there in North Carolina? I'll go 1777. How many body politics, how many political bodies were there vying to exercise jurisdiction over the soil of North Carolina? And South Carolina, Georgia, Pennsylvania, you know, all of them. 2. One whose allegiance was to the crown, this is your allegiance, and one whose allegiance was to the Constitution of North Carolina of 1776. This new body politic who said the crown had committed so many crimes against the people, it was no longer a lawful government. Because the function of government is to guarantee and protect the rights of the people. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, what is it? It's an indictment against the crown. It's a list of the crimes. Because you're not protecting our rights, you're not protecting our property, and we redress you when we come back to you now because you abdicated your position of government protecting our rights. We are now a free and independent people. Okay? So this answers the Romans 13 thing that David was talking about. People say we were in rebellion. No, we weren't. There was a reciprocal agreement between a people and a government. The crown abdicated. We had a right, our forefathers had a right to lead. That was what the common law said. How many people say they want to have a common law solution to get America back, or get back? I do. I want a common law solution. You know, and what's the common law say? Injury, you have a right to be put back in an unimpaired, uninjured condition, right? If there's been an injury, if you can prove an illegal injury. Okay. In this country, I think everyone under this tent, and a lot of people out there, especially my age or older, know what the problem is. We know how we lost everything. And it goes to the American Civil War. Okay? What are our children taught about the American Civil War? What perspective are they taught to look at the American Civil War? They're taught to look at it from a moral perspective rather than a political perspective. And as long as they can cloak it in this moral perspective, then they don't have to look at it in the political perspective. They say, well, we just accept that because what happened was morally right. How many people have ever read the object of the Civil War that passed Congress in July of 1861? Got it right here. This is the official object of the war. Passed the United States Senate, July 25th, 1861. And let's read this and see what the moral perspective is. Resolved that the present deplorable Civil War has been forced upon the country by disunionists of the southern states now in revolt against the constitutional government and in arms around the Capitol. That in this national emergency, Congress, banishing all feeling or passion or resentment, will recollect only its duty to the whole country. Following words. He says that this war is not prosecuted upon our part in any spirit of oppression, nor for any purpose of conquest or subjugation. Remember those two words. Conquest or subjugation. Because they've got to pitch this to the states that are still in the Union. And if the federal government has the authority to conquer one state and subjugate the citizens, do they have the authority to conquer all states? Sure. Right? So they're trying to settle that down. This is not what it's about, conquest. Or subjugation, nor for the purpose of overthrowing or interfering with the rights or established institutions of those states. What's the established institutions of the states? State government. The institution of slavery. The official object of the war is not to interfere with the institution of slavery. But why not? 30% of the slave states fought for the North. Is that taught? We're always taught the war is about the free states again. No. 30%. Washington, D.C. was a slave territory. If it was about slavery, wouldn't they have gotten rid of slavery the first day? No. But they said, you know what? We can take our crimes and we can put a moral tarp over it and we'll get people to accept the nationalization of citizenship and their total subjugation to the United States government, because they don't want to say, we're for slavery. I'm not for slavery, but I'm against crimes against the people of the United States and the Constitution. He says, it's not for interfering with the rights or established institutions of those states, but to defend and maintain the supremacy of the Constitution and all laws made pursuant thereof, and to preserve the Union with all the dignity, equality, and rights of the several states unimpaired. Okay, how many people believe that the Civil War ended up with unimpaired states? Okay, didn't happen. We were nationalized. So what happened? Let's do a little quick timeline. This is the object of the war. A couple years later, Washington was losing like crazy. They decided to really start pushing the slavery thing. That's what we're going to do. But the official object is, because they've got Kentucky, they've got Maryland, they've got Delaware, they've got Missouri. 4 slave states are fighting for the Union. And West Virginia came into the Union in the middle of the war as a slave state, with the condition that they get rid of slavery, but they came in as a slave state. Okay? So, was the war about slavery?
Absolutely.
Was slavery an issue of the times? Yeah. Okay. You can't deny that. I'm not going to say that it wasn't an issue. The war was not about that. In fact, from Washington's perspective, Congress's perspective, it was to preserve the institution of slavery. Do they teach that? No. We've got to learn what happened. Well, the war was over in 1865. Peace was declared in 1866. North Carolina was considered back in the Union in 1865 to the point that Congress looked at North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all these southern states and said, we're going to propose an amendment to the Constitution that's going to abolish slavery, the 13th Amendment. North Carolina voted on it and participated in that in December of 1865, and the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865, December of 1865. Did Congress recognize North Carolina as being in the Union in 1865?
No.
Yes. They took part in participating in the amending of the Constitution. They don't send it to Canada. They don't send it to Mexico. They don't send it to territories. They send it to because the war was, they said that North Carolina never left the Union. Now I want you to look at this.
That was just for the purpose of that ratification, they recognized it.
But let's look at this. Was secession a crime? What's a fundamental principle that this nation was founded upon? All government of right comes from the consent of the people. Okay? The people have a right to alter or abolish their form of government whenever they deem it necessary for their security. South Carolina said, we're amending, we want out of the Union. And what happened? Abraham Lincoln said, all government of right comes from the consent of Congress and me. Isn't that what King George said there to our founding fathers? You don't have a right. Well, now we got Lincoln to do the exact same thing. Well, the war was over in 1865. 1866, peace is declared. 1867, the Reconstruction come out. This is our political remedy. Andrew Johnson vetoed all the Reconstruction Acts. He says another ground, and this is his veto of the Third Reconstruction Act. He says another ground on which these Reconstruction Acts are attempted to be sustained is this, that these 10 states are conquered territory. Now the constitutional relation in which they stood as states toward the federal government prior to the rebellion has given place to a new relation, that their territory is a conquered country and their citizens a conquered people, and that in this new relation Congress can govern them by military power. And what's this last sentence say? A title of conquest stands on clear ground. It's a new title acquired by war. That's a change of title. Congress is saying, we own North Carolina. We have conquered them. What was the object of the war not for? Conquest. Well, we begin to get a crime going on here. Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution says treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them. Conquest is war. How do you conquer a people and make them a free people? Can't do it. You can't be conquered and free because you're not exercising self-government. Who's exercising authority over us today? Washington, D.C. We don't have states' rights. So I want to look at this. Here's what happened. The Paris Treaty of September 30, 1783. Article 1. His Britannic Majesty acknowledges the said United States. I got North Carolina, South Carolina, to be free, sovereign, independent states, and he for himself, his heirs, successors, relinquishes all claims to the government, propriety, and territorial rights of the same in every part thereof. Which political body is a free, sovereign, and independent state? Well, people organized in the Constitution of December 18, 1776 were a free, sovereign, independent people. They were given a title. This is a title transfer. It was transferred to them from the crown. This is just like when you sell property. When you give property away, you do a title transfer. Who has authority over this property? In 1868, with Reconstruction, Congress annulled the state of North Carolina, the body politic, and said, we're going to change the body politic of North Carolina. Originally, the North Carolina Constitution said this: wherefore it becomes necessary that government should be established in this state. Therefore we, the representatives of the freemen of North Carolina, chosen and assembled in Congress for the express purpose of framing a constitution under the authority of the people. And then who can vote? That all freemen the age of 21 years can vote for Senate. That all freemen the age of 21 years with certain qualifications can vote for the House of Commons. What did Congress change during the Reconstruction Acts to North Carolina to be? This is the new body politic of 1868. Who can vote? Every person born in the United States and every person who has been naturalized 21 years of age. Are these the same two body politics?
No.
But don't they teach us that Reconstruction was a readmittance of the original state?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It was the creation of a new nationalized state. And what was the one thing that they required in Reconstruction to happen? They required that the 14th Amendment be passed. I'm going to read from you. I can get to it. Hang on, I'll get there. Darn it. Lost it. Golly. Well, basically, I'll just tell it to you. Article 5 of the first Reconstruction Act, March 2nd, 1867, said this. It said this state no longer exists. This body politic. It's not a government. They're not just getting rid of a government. They're getting rid of the body politic. It doesn't exist. We're going to create a new body politic whose primary oath of allegiance is to Washington. We're going to nationalize it. And we're going to propose an amendment to the Constitution, the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is the one that says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction are citizens of the United States. That's a nationalized status. Okay? It says once this new body politic gets together, they are required to bring up the 14th Amendment, which is going to nationalize citizenship for all the other states, and they're required to pass it. Is that lawful? It's actually, those words are actually in the act. It's not something you have to kind of like, does it really? No, it says those words. And not only says that, it says it must become part of the national constitution before the state is allowed to have representation with senators, or representatives in the House and Senate. Total violations of the Constitution. But this is what we're living under. And this is Thaddeus Stevens. Let me give this real quick quote. How many people have read We the People? Who's We the People? People of several states. Thaddeus Stevens, the father of Reconstruction, said this in a speech on Reconstruction, January 3rd, 1867. He hates Andrew Johnson, the president. He's vetoing all the acts. He says that the president is commander-in-chief, Congress is his commander, and God willing, he shall obey. He and his minions shall learn that this is not a government of kings and satraps, but a government of the people, and that Congress is the people. This is the new relation. This is the new relationship that we've got. Congress is the people. We see now that the people are nothing more than pawns. Look at this shutdown of government. They want to make it as painful to the people. Are they representing the people and trying to be a good servant? No. We, to them, we're just little pawns. We're just little things they can manipulate to get their will to against one group of the sovereign people against another group of the sovereign people. you know, the Democrats sovereign people and the Republicans sovereign people. This government that they put in place, the coerced passage of the 14th Amendment, created the nationalization of citizenship. North Carolina today is not composed of citizens of North Carolina. On a voter registration, to be a citizen of North Carolina is not on the voter registration application. You're required to be a citizen of the United States. This is the change. And we've got to decide whether we accept Reconstruction, the annulment of state body politics, sovereign bodies, as lawful, and we accept the state of affairs that we have today. Because if they can nationalize us, they have all control over us. Now, here's the problem. If you're a United States citizen saying they're illegal and you want to overthrow them, you're guilty of sedition. Because where's your oath of allegiance? To them. But you're saying, I'm going against you. I'm going to fight against you. Okay? We say we got to come together as a body. We got to become a body of people again. We got to have a lawful cause. Was Reconstruction lawful? Was it constitutional? The law says an unconstitutional act, you're not required to obey it. We have no legal obligation to recognize these acts as lawful. What keeps them in power is us pretending they're lawful. We are a totally subjugated people. I call it subjugated with benefits. We're a totally subjugated people. Thinking we have state rights. We're thinking that what was put into place by the founders was there. The Constitution of the United States of America was designed for a federal government in relation to the states. It is a national government in reality. And here we are in the states saying we want state rights. We've got state right movements. Can't have that unless you are a state. Unless you get that body politic back together again. And what we're trying to do is get people, and what we've been doing is we get people to give your oath of allegiance to the original Constitution of North Carolina, for that body politic. Which one of these states is lawful? Which one has a lawful transfer of title? The one that came from the Treaty of Paris and gave these people, or the one that came from Reconstruction and gave these people the right to exercise jurisdiction over the state? I have not had a driver's license in 18 years. I've never been convicted of it. The reason being is they're not lawful. I said, I'll get a license if you can prove you're lawful, but we go into court. We take this on as a legal challenge. Do we have a right to make a legal challenge?
Yes.
Do we have a right to make a constitutional challenge? Do we have a right to recognize a status we have a right to? Yes. In John Locke's Treatise of Government, second Treatise of Government, golly. In John Locke's second Treatise of Government, he addresses just this. This is section 176, and I believe it's under the category of conquest. It says that the aggressor who puts himself in a state of war with another and unjustly invades another man's rights. Was Washington's war on North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, was that just or unjust? Was there a just cause that Washington was doing? North Carolina had committed a crime? Or was it an unjust cause against our rights? It was an unjust war. Okay? So it says, the aggressor who puts himself into the state of war with another and unjustly invades another man's right can, by such a war, never have a right over the conquered. They never have a right over us. It was done unjustly. He says, will be easily agreed by all men who will not think that robbers and pirates have a right of empire over whomsoever they have force enough to master, or that men are bound by promises which unlawful forces extorts from them. Should a robber break into my house and with a dagger at my throat make me seal deeds to convey my estate to him, would this give him any title? Just such a title by his sword has an unjust conqueror who forces me into submission. The injury and the crime is equal, whether committed by the wearer of the crown or some petty villain. The title of the offender and the number of his followers makes no difference. Doesn't make a difference how big the government is. The only difference is great robbers punish little ones. Keep them in their obedience. But the great ones are rewarded with laurels and triumphs because they are too big for the weak hands of justice in this world and have the power over their own possessions, which should punish offenders. He goes on. I'm going to give a synopsis. He says, what is our duty if we're an unjustly conquered people? Appeal to the law of justice. This is what we need to do. Bring up the issue. But perhaps justice is denied, or I'm crippled and cannot stir, robbed and have not the means to do it. I can't do it. If God has taken away all means of seeking remedy, there is nothing left but patience. But my son, when able, may seek relief of the law which I am denied. He or his son may renew the appeal till they recover the right. We are the sons and the grandsons of the people who had the authority to exercise jurisdiction over these states. We have a right to go and demand they prove Reconstruction is lawful and constitutional. The war is lawful and constitutional. They cannot do it. We've been going into court for 16 years. They cannot answer it. Right now, you've got a state in place that when they're challenged with their authority to exercise jurisdiction over the soil, they refuse to do it. And that should cause great discomfort to you. But what we've got is, if you want to give your oath of allegiance back to the original body politic and put back in place, if you really want state rights and state body politics and return to the Constitution, you need to get up and go back to that booth, and we've got oaths of allegiance. We can come together and start reforming the lawful body of the several states. This isn't limited to just North Carolina. I cater it to North Carolina, but this remedy is for every state in the American Union. And I'd love to get with Pennsylvania, Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee, anyone here. We've got to reclaim. The reason we don't have lawful government is we're not exercising. I just want to thank you for that. And I'm going to be talking again a little bit later about how we can do more on that.
Yeah. All right.